try to be brief. My subject, I forgot to tell him what it was. That it is public opinion in Israel and the implementation of Israeli law in Judea and Samaria. I studied Sovietology in the United States. That's what I have a degree in. In the United States, in the 50s and 60s, invested hundreds of millions of dollars to understand the Soviet Union, its culture, its policies, its education, and so on, in order to understand what they're doing. And it shaped its policy based on that understanding, and it succeeded. What was I amazed to find out when I came to Israel? That it doesn't work that way here. There are among us experts, Middle Eastern experts who understand Palestinians, who know them, who know their ideology. It has no impact whatsoever on Israeli policy. Every time somebody gets up and suggests policy to the Israeli public based on some kind of imaginary picture that has no basis in reality of the Palestinians, and based on that, the policy is determined. Oslo is, of course, an excellent example. President Barak in Camp David, the disengagement, the Annapolis talks, all of these were cases in which the government, the prime minister, the media, the people didn't understand what they were dealing with. One of the most important aspects in Israeli policy, one of the most important factors, is Israeli public opinion. Israeli public opinion determines the boundaries of the possible in policy towards Judea and Samaria. The public doesn't determine what policy is, but it decides what works and what doesn't, what will be accepted and what won't. A public policy proposal that coincides with the feeling of the public will succeed, and one that doesn't will fail. Public opinion is a factor that is difficult to contend with. It is based more on intuitions rather than logic. Often it expresses a reasonable but not necessarily consistent priority, and it changes gradually as a result of extraordinary circumstances or events. Why have we gathered here tonight and other evenings to talk about the annexation of Judea and Samaria now, and I emphasize the word now? This is a subject we've been talking about for many years, but now we feel that there is an opportunity. First of all, the negotiations process related to Oslo has collapsed. We all see it. We see it. The Palestinians see it. The Europeans, the Americans, they don't want to admit it, but it's a fact. But the most dramatic change in public opinion compared to 2005 is that there is a dramatic change in Israeli public opinion. Today, we can see that the Israeli public is willing to accept things that it wasn't willing to accept 5 or 6 years ago. And this means that it is possible to change policy in the near future. This change occurred the day after the constitutive event of the opening of the Second Lebanon Wall. There's a lot of material and studies on this. I can quote books, chapter and verse to you. This is a survey we carried out the day after the beginning of the Second Lebanon Wall. We asked the public, and today, it's very common did the disengagement contribute to the outbreak of the war? And 63% said yes. Do you support other unilateral withdrawals? 73% said no. And a question about Oslo. Was the entire effort to make peace with Palestinians a mistake? 57% said yes. We asked similar questions. This time in October 2007, this was a week before the Annapolis talks, the renewal of the negotiations with the Palestinians, when Olmert stepped hard on the gas in order to see peace take shape while he was Prime Minister. And the survey that I'm going to show you, we went to all the media outlets in Israel, television, newspaper, not a single one was willing to publish this. Not one of them was willing to ruin Olmert's day, except for the Jerusalem Post. Are you in favor of giving the Palestinians Jerusalem as part of an agreement? 69% no. Are you in favor of further withdrawals in Judea and Samaria as part of an agreement? 65% no. Have the efforts to make peace with the Palestinians caused damage to the state of Israel? Once again, a significant majority. 52% said that the peace agreement did cause damage, not the way it appears on this slide. And now I would like to move ahead, to jump ahead and show you a survey that we carried out, that Dory Gold's Institute carried out in May, 2 months ago. When Bibi stood before the Knesset, when he stood before the Congress, he said there is a consensus in Israel to annex the settlement blocks, and we'll have to make concessions in the other areas. Was he telling the truth or lying? Let's see the survey. Okay. This is a summary of the survey, but I want you to look in the middle of the table. Are you opposed to giving away territory, even in the context of various agreements? Look, for example, what I call not what I call security areas, but rather ideological gut areas. Tomb of Rachel and Machpela, the Cave of the Patriarchs. These are, I only brought the ones who are against. I didn't bring the ones when 65% say they are absolutely against it. In other words, the 35% that remains is divided up between those who don't know and those who are against. East Jerusalem is not a security area, it is an ideological area. 65%, 50% of the area of the West Bank. This is not my terminology, of course. They don't even know where it is, but 55% are against it. Gush Etzion, Ariel, over 70%, 75%. Judea and Samaria, 95% of Judea and Samaria, 75% were against. When there is a clear security component, then it goes up to 80 or 90%. One of the main arguments of the left, of the extreme left, is territory does not lead to peace. Only peace with the Palestinians will lead to peace. So 10% of the Israeli population, Jewish population, this was only on the Jewish population, 10% of the Jewish population is divided among those who are against this, those who don't know, and those who are in favor of giving up the areas that overlook Ben Gurion Airport and Highway 443. Are you in favor of a separation fence that will, for the separation fence to become Israel's international border? 24% are in favor, 30% are pretty much in favor, 10% are pretty much negative, 22% are absolutely against. What does this mean? This means that the Israeli public doesn't trust the Palestinians, is not willing to take risks in making agreements, but very much wants to say goodbye to the Palestinians. I think that if we want to adopt an annexation program that can pass, and if we start working now, we could do it in September, not of this year, but in 2012. And if you think a little, you'll understand why I'm saying that month. That can succeed, and because that's exactly what the public wants now. A proposal to annexation to annex all the area will never pass. It has no chance of passing. Would like to ask you, Nadja, for another minute, if I may. So what about the areas that will not be annexed? One of the implications of entering into this process is that no one expects me to come with a solution. So what is the alternative? Does Paris have an alternative? He thinks he does. 80% of the Israeli public thinks he doesn't know what he's talking about. The public isn't asking us for a solution. We can come and say, let's do whatear we can to have a modus vivendi. We don't know how long it will take. We'll take what's ours, where they are, we'll live, and we won't take it right now. In my opinion, I would like to annex Judea and Samaria, not because I think that it is a security need. On that point, I don't agree with Caroline Glick, not because I want my son to have a building permit, although of course I do want him to have one, but because it is ours, it is our heritage, and it is chutzpah on the part of anyone who thinks that it is theirs. What about the future after this stage of annexation? After saying that I won't accept a Palestinian state here, this is the bottom line of both the surveys of the Israel Policy Institute, the 2016